Well, here we are again. This is Caleb Jones, and this is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast, freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. I'm going to give you today my single most controversial concept and piece of advice. You might think that would be that monogamy doesn't work, and you should have sex with other women whenever you want, and maybe even allow her to have sex with other guys whenever she wants, even if you're serious, even if you're married, even if you have kids. You might think that is my most controversial piece of advice, and it isn't. It actually isn't. You might think that another one that comes close is no girlfriends before age 30. If you're under the age of 30, you should not have a girlfriend. I've talked about that a great deal in my blogs and social media and things like that. You might think that would be the most controversial piece of advice. And these are controversial things, no question about it. Oh, you might think that my libertarian beliefs would be the most controversial thing. You might think that, since 99% of the universe, 99% of the world is anti-libertarian, including modern-day right-wing conservatives who love big government. You might think that would be the most, the most controversial thing that I say. It's not. The most controversial thing that I have ever said, the thing that has caused the most people to get angry, the most people to post angry ad hominem attacks against me, the articles in which I had to delete the most amount of comments from trolls and people violating the 5 simple rules on my blogs, the thing that made people furious for years and still does to this day is the concept. It's actually not a concept. It's the fucking truth. And I'll give you the exceptions in a minute, but the concept that everything in your life is your fault. Everything. Everything bad in your life, if you are over the age of 18, is your fault. It is not some external source's fault. It is not some external person's fault. It is not Donald Trump's fault. It is not Obama's fault. It is not rich people's fault. It is not feminists' fault. It is not your ex-wife's fault. It is not your girlfriend's fault, your roommate's fault, your boss's fault, your job's fault, the economy's fault. It's not. It's your fault. It's your fault. If it's a negative condition in your life, it's your fault. Caleb, how can you possibly say that? My fucking roommate stole $600 from me. How is that my fault? Yes, that is your fault. You left that money out where he could get it. You left your credit card out where you could get it. You lent him the money when you knew you shouldn't have, and he ripped you off. Your fault. How can it be my fault? My boss screamed at me and called me an asshole, and that's unacceptable. How could that be my fault? You don't have to work there. Do you have to work there? You choose to work there. You could have quit there a long time ago. Caleb, it's my ex-wife's fault. How can you possibly say I was a normal husband, and she beat me up, and she fucked my brother, and got pregnant, and we got divorced, and she destroyed my life, and she took half my money, and she took my kids. It's your fault. You married the bitch. You're the one who married her. Did someone put a gun to your head and force you at gunpoint to marry her? No, you married her. As a matter of fact, when I got divorced a bazillion years ago, I had this concept. Everything in my life was my fault. I said, okay, this was my fault. This was my fault. Yes, I could point to things that she did that are her fault, but the overall divorce was my fault because I didn't have to marry that woman. I shouldn't have married that woman. That was my decision and my fault. And I was dating someone at the time during my divorce, because my divorce took about 2 years, and who knew me very well and knew of my ex-wife pretty well. And she said, Caleb, how can you say that? No, you did. You weren't a perfect person. No one is. But this was clearly her fault. She did X, Y, and Z and listed off a bunch of facts and things she did. And I said, you're right. She did those things, but the divorce is still my fault. Everything in my life is my fault. Everything in your life is your fault. It's your fault. Every condition we can find for you that is negative in your life, I could trace back to a decision you made, and likely, this is the key of this entire podcast, but I'll get to this later, likely decisions and actions you are still taking right now. Things you are doing right now that perpetuates this problem. If you're constantly bitching about your wife, or bitching about your job, or bitching about your girlfriend, dump her. Divorce her. Quit your fucking job. What the fuck are you doing? Do you think I would stay at a job that I hated? Do you think I would stay with a woman who drove me crazy? Do you think I would do that even for 5 minutes? No, of course not. And neither should you. This is your fault. The most irritating people in the universe are people who hate their jobs. And I'm not the first person to say this. I have been stunned at the number of people in society who clearly hate their jobs. And I love it when they yell at you. I had a UPS guy once yell at me I don't want to go into details, but he clearly hated his job. He hated his job and he took it out on me. I'm sure you've had that experience at a store or a restaurant or in some kind of business where you're working with someone behind the counter and it's obvious they hate their job. They hate every minute of it and they take it out on you. Dickhead, quit your fucking job. No, Caleb, you don't understand. This is a terrible economy and it's hard to find new jobs in the economy and I need to pay my bills, blah, 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 blah. I didn't say it was easy to quit your job and get another job. I didn't say that. That's not what I said. Sometimes people mix this up. It's your fault you hate your job. You can fucking quit. And what they think I said was, it's easy to quit and easy to get another job. No, I said it's your fault you hate your job. It's your fault you hate your girlfriend. Your wife drives you crazy or whatever or you live in a city that you hate or live in a neighborhood that you hate. This is your fault. I didn't say it's really easy to move to another city. I didn't say that. Sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes it takes time. I've talked about moving out of the country, right? And I've told people, if you want to move out of the country, don't move out tomorrow. That's probably too difficult. Make a plan to do that within 6 to 24 months. That's plenty of time to figure out how to move out of the country. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. If you're doing 5 flags, maybe a little longer if it's complicated like me. But other than that, it's plenty of time. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's doable and it's your fault. Whether or not something is easy or something is difficult or if it might take a while, that's a separate conversation. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm saying it's your fault. Everything you can think of, every negative condition I can trace back to an action that you have taken. I learned this, or at least the spark of this was from my dad, my father. And so when I was a young man in my early 20s, I was like the typical young man, and I thought that all my problems were someone else's fault. They were my boss's fault, or the bank's fault, or my landlord's fault. And, I was late on some bills at one point, and, I was bitching and moaning about it. My dad was like, well, that's your fault. That's your fault. You're late in your bills. That's your fault, Caleb. And I said, no, it's not. No, it's not. I couldn't pay my electric bill because I had to pay my car payment. And my car payment was due and I had to pay my car payment. If I didn't pay my car payment, they would have repossessed my car. So I had to pay my car payment. And he said, you don't have to have that expensive sports car. And I did. I had expensive for me at the time. I had a really cool, fun sports car back then. This is the early 1990s, a long time ago. He said, you don't have to have that expensive car. You could drive a shittier car where you would have far less of a car payment or even no car payment. You chose to have an expensive car payment. And I went, fuck, he's right. Son of a bitch, he's right. He's right. And it made me angry that he was right. That's why I make so many people angry. And I have. If you've read my blogs a long time, you've seen how angry people get when I say everything in your life is your fault. It's not your mom's fault, your dad's fault. My mom and dad abused me. My mom and dad sexually molested me, blah, blah. Look, if you're under the age of 18, that's different. I'll talk about that in a second. But if you're over the age of 18, you don't live with them anymore, and hopefully you don't. Even if you do live with them, that's your fault. You have the wherewithal to sit down, get therapy, read some self-help books, get your shit together. I didn't say you can solve the problem 100%. That's not what I'm saying. But you have the ability to alleviate these problems. I will get angry emails from angry guys saying, you don't understand. And my mom was a total bitch when I was a kid. And they put me on drugs and Ritalin and I'm all fucked up now. And it's not my fault. Yes, it is your fucking fault. It's not your fault when she did those things when you were 6. That's correct. Children are different. Children don't have freedom. Therefore, they don't have the responsibility of adults. So if you're under the age of 18, this does not apply to you because you're a child. You don't have any freedom. So yes, you can become abused by your parents and things like that. Of course, I am talking here about adults, people who are age 18 and over. And if you're listening to my voice, you are probably age 18 or over, probably a lot older than 18, probably 25, 35, maybe even older than that. It's your fault. You can decide how to deal with that problem or whether or not to resolve that problem or at least heavily alleviate that problem. I didn't say you can wave a magic wand and fix these horrible things that happened in your childhood. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the negativity you're experiencing in your life and the problems you're experiencing in your life because of the shit that went down when you were a kid is your fault. Not the shit that went down when you were a kid, but the things you're going through now as an adult because of when you were a kid are your fucking fault. I remember years ago, I was watching Roseanne Barr. She was being interviewed. And this is back when she was like 50 years old, I think. A decade or two ago. I don't know how old she is now. Maybe in her late 60s. I forget. But anyway, the woman who was interviewing her was asking her, Roseanne, why do you keep getting in relationships with men who beat you up? Why do you keep doing this over and over again? You keep getting these horrible relationships. And Roseanne went into this tirade about, well, because it's not my fault. When I was a kid, my mom did this and my mom did that. My mom did, and it's all these horrible things her mom did. And and I'm sitting there watching TV, watching this woman who was in her 50s, maybe late 40s or 50s, blaming her current problem as a woman who's 50 years old on what her fucking parents did 45 fucking years ago. Sorry, sweetheart. The problems you're experiencing now because of these things are your fault. They're your fault. Everything in your life bad is your fault. By the way, the flip side of that is everything in your life that is good is also your fault, which is kind of nice. Gives you the power. But trust me, everything in your life is your fault. Now, let me get the excuses. The first thing a lot of people like to come back with is the determinism debate, the free will debate, sometimes extreme nihilists. There's nihilism, there's determinism, there's free will, there's all kinds of philosophies around that. And that is basically the concept that we have no free will as human beings. We are basically wet robots. Everything we do is programmed by our DNA and these responses. We don't actually have actual free will and so on. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I haven't done the research enough to make a strong, solid yes or no opinion on that. But from what I have read, that actually does make sense to me. That is completely fucking irrelevant to my point. Completely irrelevant. Whether or not you do not have free will on some kind of microcellular level that you're not aware of defeats the entire point of what I'm discussing here. The example that I've used before is, I used World of Warcraft as an example. Maybe today I could use something else like, I don't know, Fortnite or something. I'll use World of Warcraft. It's as if you're playing World of Warcraft when you're with a party of guys and you're fighting a dragon and you suddenly stand there in the middle of combat and you stop fighting the dragon and you turn to your buddies. You say, you know what? This is all bullshit. You know, these are all ones and zeros. None of this is real. This is all bullshit. There's no point to this. This is just stupid. And as you're arguing with your friends, because you're not helping them, the dragon kills all of you. So now you're all dead and you resurrect and your friend's like, dude, what the fuck? We're trying to kill the dragon. He goes, what dragon? There's no dragon. This is all ones and zeros. Don't you understand? This is a computer simulation and none of this is real. And then you walk around and your friends say, you know what? Go fuck yourself. And so you walk around the Warcraft game bitching and moaning to everybody that there's no point to this. This is all ones and zeros. This is all fake. And you are missing the entire point of playing the game. That's not the point. The point of the game is to play the game, to actually enjoy yourself, to accomplish objectives and goals, right? That's why you play a video game. That doesn't mean it's real in some scientific sense. It means that's the point of the game. Guys who really overfocus on we have no free will, we live in a deterministic universe, or these nihilists who say that life is meaningless because of XYZ, because of the genes control us, you are missing the entire point of living. The entire point of living, you're here. You're in the game of life. You can play the game or not. And if you don't want to play the game and kill yourself, go right ahead. But if you're going to hear playing the game, play the game. If you're going to sit there and bitch and moan about how at some kind of microscopic atomic level, I don't have free will that I'm not even conscious of, you are destroying the entire point of the game. The point of the game here is long-term consistent happiness. And within the game, within this construct of reality, yes, you have free will. Maybe not maybe. I'm not saying yes or no to this, but maybe at a subatomic level or microcellular level, you don't actually have free will the way the Bible talks about how God or Jesus gave us free will. Maybe that's true. Completely fucking irrelevant. In your day-to-day life, you have the ability to choose within that construct. It's insane. This is a stupid argument. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's irrelevant. Everything in your life is your fault. Now, the next excuse I get, and this is common with all the concepts I talk about, people get upset, and what they try to do is they try to argue with me using the rare 1%, 2% exception to the rule. And as I have said on my websites, perhaps hundreds of times, if your argument is the exception to the rule, you have no argument. I say to you, Asian men tend to be shorter than white men. And you say to me, I know a guy who is Chinese and 6'3", so you're full of shit. That's bullshit. You are using the exception to the rule to make your point, which means you don't have a point. As a matter of fact, when people do this, they don't realize how dumb they sound. When I just said that, does that sound like an intelligent person? That's bullshit. I know one guy who's Chinese and 6'3". That's bullshit. That's not true that Asian guys tend to be shorter than white guys. That's bullshit. Doesn't that sound stupid? Because he's using the exception to the rule. If the exception to the rule is your point, you have no point. So when I say everything in your life is your fault, you get these people who inevitably come back and say, are you fucking kidding? What about little kids who die of cancer? That was their fault? Again, how many fucking kids do you know who die of cancer? Give me the answer. Da-na-na. Okay, 0. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of a percent. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage. In other words, it's the exception to the rule. As always, with everything I say, you can find bizarre and rare exceptions to every rule whenever you're talking about human beings. The exceptions prove the rule. The fact that you have to reach so far into these crazy, statistically insignificant examples in order to, quote, prove me wrong, shows you that I'm right. You see how this works? It's like when I talk about long-term monogamy and long-term traditional marriage not working, and I say, you're probably going to get divorced if you get traditionally monogamously married, and someone says, oh, that's bullshit. I know this one guy who did it. He's been married 17 years and very happy. Yeah, you know one guy. How many married people do you know? How many people do you know throughout your life who got married and didn't make it? Yeah, 47, 57, 122, but you know one guy who made it. Thank you for proving my point. That's a 1% success rate. The exception proves the rule. Now, to be fair, I will give you the actual exceptions. I mentioned one, children. If you're under the age of 18, and certainly if you're like a little kid, obviously that's different. That doesn't apply to you because you don't have the wherewithal to manage your own life. You don't have agency, so you don't have responsibility. That's okay. If you live in a highly oppressive nation like North Korea, okay, you could make the argument that those conditions or a lot of those conditions are not your fault. I understand that. Am I talking to people in North Korea? No, I'm talking to people in the Western world, so sorry, that doesn't apply to you. And you're probably over 18, so sorry, that doesn't apply to you either. If you are afflicted by some extremely rare and unusual medical condition that was not created in any way by your lifestyle, that's an important distinction, then maybe that wasn't your fault. I have an uncle who died of ALS, and my understanding with ALS, I could be wrong on this, my understanding is that has nothing to do with your lifestyle. It's purely genetic. There was literally nothing he did to exacerbate that or bring that on, and there was nothing he could have done to prevent it, is my understanding. But you'll see a lot of people, particularly left-wing people, when they try to say we need to have, Medicare for all, or healthcare, government-run healthcare for all, they will say, well, so many people die of cancer. Isn't this terrible? We need to help them. How many people die of cancer because of how they've lived? Doctors will tell you it's over 80%. Cancer is, at least 80% of the time, preventable, according to all the research I've read. If you smoke cigarettes and or drink a bunch of alcohol and drink a bunch of coffee and eat sugar and carbs and do that for 40 years and get cancer, gee, I wonder why you got cancer. So even that is your fault. On and on and on. I could give you example after example. I know it's difficult to hear. I know you're going to try to find excuses. I know that's going to make you angry, or at least some people angry. Maybe you're not angry. Maybe you're nodding your head in agreement, and that's great. But a lot of people who hear this get very, very upset. But I am right. Every condition in your life that is negative is your fault, particularly if it is a recurring condition. If it's a recurring condition, it really is your fault, because that means you're doing something or refusing to do something that is maintaining that condition. One of the big game changer books that I read in my life is a book by Harry Brown called How to Find Freedom in an Unfree World. And in there, he had a great quote. He said, I have learned to become ruthlessly intolerant of regular irritants. In other words, regular things in his life that was making him unhappy. He said, no, I will not have these. And I adopted that model many years ago, and boy, did it serve me well. If there's a regular condition in my life that bothers me, I fucking eliminate it. If I can't completely eliminate it, I alleviate it as much as I can. 80, 90%. Because sometimes in life, there are weird circumstances where you can't completely eliminate a problem. But you can alleviate it, whittle it down 70, 80, 90%. No problem. You can do it. You can do it if you take the time and effort. Now, let me explain to you why this is a good thing. The fact that everything bad in your life is your fault is a good thing. People who get defensive and angry don't understand that I'm actually trying to help them, and I'm giving them good news. If everything bad in your life is your fault, think about this for a minute. If everything bad in your life is your fault, this is the best news I can give you. Why? Because that means you have the power to change it. Why is it that things that happen to little kids may not be their fault? Because they don't have the power to change it. If someone is beating you up, if an adult is beating you up or sexually molesting you, and you're a 6-year-old, what can you do to stop it? Nothing. That's terrible. You don't want to be in that circumstance, right? You want to be in a circumstance where if something bad is happening to you, you can stop it. You have the authority and the agency and the ability to stop these things. And as an adult in the Western world, you do. So every negative condition in your life, you have the power to eliminate or dramatically alleviate. You actually have the power to fix your life. You can do it whenever you want. This is wonderful. Otherwise, if these negative conditions were not your fault, you would be fucked. There would be nothing you could do to fix these problems. You would literally have to just put up with these problems for the rest of your life, regardless of what you did. Now, the interesting flip side to this is that's kind of what a lot of these people want. They want someone to say, hey, it's not your fault. And it kind of lets them off the hook. I say, oh, good. It's not my fault. So I don't have to put in any effort to fix it because it's not my fault. I can't control this. I can't control my income. I can't control my sex life. I can't lose any weight. I can't be happier. I can't move out of my city. I literally can't. So good. I can sit on my ass, be angry, and not do anything about it because it takes the responsibility off my shoulders. That's why they do this. Now, you can be lazy. You can not take action, but you'll never be happy that way. And Alpha Male 2.0 is about what? Long-term, consistent, masculine happiness. And the only way to do that is to acknowledge the fact, and it is a fact, that everything in your life negative is your fault and that you have the power to fix those things. You know, years ago when I started out, I had all kinds of fucking problems. Oh my God. Today I have no problems. But when I started out years and years and years ago, I had all kinds of problems. I had interpersonal problems with people I knew in my life. My woman life was a fucking mess or non-existent. I was a virgin until I was in my early 20s. I had financial problems. I've had problems with my taxes years ago. I had problems paying my bills. I have had every fucking problem you can think of. Not literally, but I have had nonstop. There were times in my life where I'm like, oh my God. There were so many problems in my life. It was so overwhelming. I don't even know where to begin. That's how I thought. Today, I have zero problems. I literally have zero problems in my life. The only problem I have today is I'm having trouble losing weight, but I'm going to nail that given a little time and effort. It's not something I'm concerned about, but it's other than that little problem that really does. And by the way, that problem doesn't affect my quality of life. I have a lot of energy. I'm very healthy. I'm very energetic. I exercise, all that stuff. So that problem, that one problem I have is not that big. That's it. I literally have no problems in my family life, no problems in my relationship life, no problems in my woman life. My woman life is a paradise. It's a dream come true. No problems in my financial life, no problems in my business life, no problems in my international life. Every aspect of my life, my social life, every aspect with my kids, I have no problems. You know why? Because many years ago, I realized every problem in my life was my fault, which means I had the ability to fix it. And some of the problems were fixed pretty quickly. Some of the problems took a little time. Some of the problems took several years, but they all got fixed. Every single one of them. Even the weight problem. I used to be much, much heavier than I am now. It's not even close. Matter of fact, I was watching some videos of some online courses I did the other day, editing them and updating some of them. And I was shocked at how overweight I was compared to now in the videos I do now on YouTube. I was like, oh my God, I was a fat motherfucker. So even that problem, I alleviated greatly and I will continue to do so. Everything in your life is your fault. Even if you feel strongly emotionally with your little emotional heart that it's your ex-wife's fault, it's your parents' fault, it's the government's fault, it's whoever's fault, it is your fault. And that's good news because you have the ability to fix all the problems in your life. I didn't say they'd be easy. I didn't say you could fix these problems tomorrow morning. Don't mix up what I'm saying here because some guys, it'd be too hard. I didn't say it wasn't hard. Some problems will take time to fix. Some problems you have, especially if you got some big ones, and I've had some big ones, might take you, a year, 2, 3 years of some regular work to get to fix, to alleviate. Some of you might have some really horrible, horrible financial problems. You may have no money. You may have serious debt problems. You may have serious tax problems. Some of you may have really serious women problems. You might be 30, 32 years old, still be a virgin. You might have some really serious problems there. Yes, those are serious problems, but they can be fixed. All those problems can be fixed, and sooner than you think. By the way, I'll leave you with that. In my anecdotal experience and personal experience, both my problems that I've had historically and problems I've seen guys have, and I've talked to a lot of guys, talked to a lot of you over the last 10 years of my life, a lot of you. The time and effort it takes to fix the problems that seem really big often take less time than you think. That is absolutely true with me. With the exception of my weight loss thing, every major problem I've had, financial problems, woman problems, interpersonal problems, all those problems I had took far less time and effort to fix than I thought they would. I thought there would be 10 years of hard work. No, not even close. Not even close. Some problems I fixed within 3 or 4 months, some less than that. So be aware of that. Sometimes your problems are not going to take nearly as long as you think. Matter of fact, the odds are it won't take nearly as long as you think, because right now you're just feeling the weight of these problems, which are 100% your fucking fault. So stop being a baby. Stop whining. Stop pointing the finger at places or people external to you for your problems. Turn that finger and point it back at you and say, this is my fault, and that is good news. I'm going to fucking fix it. If you want my help to fix your problems, to get to a higher level of happiness in your life as a man, join smic.com. I'm here to help you. It is part of my mission and my purpose to help you solve your problems, which are your fault, so you can be a happier guy. I love you. Take note of this. Think about this. Don't let this go. Re-listen to this podcast if you have to. Re-listen to this podcast on a regular basis if you need to. Everything in your life is your fault. That's good news, because you can fix it. Have a good one. Bye.